David, I don't think you were live for like that whole time.
Oh boy. All right. I thought I hit the right buttons. If you're tuning in and you're wondering where was DPB on live, I thought I hit the live button. Now I'm live. Kevin had to come over here and make sure that I was driving correctly. It says right there. Oh, yeah, I see it. I better make sure that I'm not live on the radio. I got plenty of time. All right. Sorry about that, folks. If you were tuned in, joining me live, there we go. I got somebody popped in. Sorry about that. As you can tell, I'm less than on my training wheels. I was crashing and burning there. I thought I hit the go live button, and so many of you were probably sitting there going, "Where is the live portion on Facebook?" And here it is. I'm live. I'm coming at you. So hopefully many of you were able to pick up the radio side of it. Thanks for being with us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Today we're not on Rumble, but once again, always appreciate you. Hold on, Kevin can't probably see this over there, but I have one commenter already. Kevin, he says, uh, Ryan McKenzie said, "You're right, Ryan. I totally Bidened it." Did I sound like Joe when I was doing it? Ice cream, ice cream, ice cream. Where's the ice cream? All right. Okay. Ryan, I'm just learning. I needed you, buddy. I needed you in here to help me. I need somebody like right over my shoulder. I'd hate to do that, but that looks weird. You know, it's one thing to be learning to ride your bicycle. It's another thing, but it was helpful. I will say it's nice to have your parents very close behind you because, once you take the training wheels off, things can get a little hazardous. So, anyhow, thank you for joining. Obviously, it's it's a it's an adventure here. You've lived it out, and many of you have endured. Yes, I'd probably be about the same. No, you wouldn't. The Ryan Mack show was awesome. You've got this technology down. The problem is I have to say I don't know too many people my age. Well, I say that, and then I realize that my friend Darren Bailey was able to launch his own podcast because he was doing the switching. He had a switcher and everything, and he's launching his own content and material without a producer. That's where I think the key is. That's how valuable Kevin is across the way. But just so you know, Ryan, um, Kevin's across the way where I usually sit and do the show. Kevin is now there doing the show. So, all right. I'm glad to know that I'm live now.
Just consider your first hour was practice.
Yeah, that was practice. I was practicing. Now I'm going to come back live and I'm going to have to tell the entire world of my mistakes again. Man alive. I'm like Bongino, the gift of failure. If ever there was stumbling, fumbling, and bumbling, that's the old Chris Berman go-to motto. Uh, I've done it. So crash and burn. I love it. All right, let's see here. Okay. I think I've got everything set. So the Insurrection Deception. Here we go. No excuses here, man. I will tell you, you talk about excuses. I should have one or two or maybe none. I'm sorry. Hey, if any of you were over on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter, we're not broadcasting today, or I don't even know. You call it broadcasting on Rumble. We will get that back online next week. But if you're over there trying to watch Facebook Live and going, what is going on? And you did not see yours truly live. That's because, in the immortal words of our very frequent listener and former on-air talent, Ryan McKenzie of the Ryan Mack Show, he said you Biden the live stream, and he is so spot on. I own it. You're right. I wonder if Rush Limbaugh, and I'm not comparing myself to Rush, it's just the person who truly has been the pinnacle of what I look to as far as somebody that did it right in conservative talk radio. But I wonder if Rush Limbaugh ever really dropped and fumbled the ball like I just did there, Kevin. Kevin is still in studio. He comes over during the break and goes, "Oh my gosh, you're not even live." And I'm like, "What do you mean? Like on the radio?" No, on the live stream. Okay, stumbling, fumbling, bumbling. Yours truly. And all of you that listen to me know that can be who I am, right? I try to do my best, and sometimes I just can't. No matter how hard I try, I can't match up. I can't reach that level. In fact, it's through truly crashing and burning that I've learned most of the valuable lessons that have come to me during life. Now, granted, I've also been wise enough through the years to realize that you don't want to crash and burn because it hurts. It can hurt really bad too. Something though like this, where I lose an hour of my Facebook Live for the DPB show. I'm going to have to go back now and listen to it on the app, because you can do that. All of these shows are cataloged. And no, I haven't learned how to do that yet. That's the next thing, right? I said earlier that I was on training wheels trying to get the training wheels off, and it's always good to have a parent right behind you. That's how we all learn to ride a bike. Somebody significant in our life, whoever taught us to do that. For me, I know it was my dad. And they give you a little push, and you're supposed to maintain momentum and pedaling at the same time, and using the handlebars, and that's a lot to do. And many of you know what I'm talking about, right? You got out of your comfort zone somewhere along the line, and you did something unique, something that was so beyond who you are, the fabric of what you believed you were capable of doing. And it takes us to do those things. I never thought that I would be on air, well, except for live stream. I am still now live on live stream. Thank you for tuning in, those of you that are in the chat, and thank you, Ryan, for pointing out that I totally Biden the live stream, because I did. But many of you have done something similar. You've gotten outside of where you're comfortable, and we need for you to do that, especially in times like this. We are living in times. In fact, if you tuned into the Victorious Life, these are the last days. And I know that every generation says that very thing, but I will tell you, when you look at the overall timeline of events, the history of prophetic or scriptural evidence and the prophecy that is contained within scripture, these times are unprecedented. We've not seen anything like it. The topic today is the insurrection deception. We have people who were willing to go to such great lengths. Now you can see it. Go out for yourself and watch the January 6th tapes. I told you back on January 10th of 2021, 4 days after the Stop the Steal bus tour, the J6 rally, I told you then it was political theater. See, when you are deceiving others, you have to keep the lie going. And in order to keep the lie going, you've got to do a lot of things. I read these off earlier, and I want to just hit upon them again, right? Because I think it's important we realize to what great lengths they will go. And I hope many of you are starting to see this. They coordinated to unleash. I've talked about this often on all my shows. You know, I had Dr. Chisholm on air. They did a summit, a COVID summit, where they really revealed a lot of what was going on with the COVID crisis. They coordinated to unleash COVID, which, to believe me, was it a respiratory illness? By all means. Was it as lethal as they told us it was? What's becoming very evident and that was lethal was the vaccination itself and the safety data that did not exist about the COVID vaccine. But they unleashed COVID during an election year. They fortified the election with mail-in ballots, internet algorithm rigging, and censorship. They banned, you're right, the same guy they're indicting now, right? Once again, the same guy they're trying to put a gag order on so he can't speak of the atrocities that are taking place against his family, against you. Because really, Trump says it best. This isn't about President Donald J. Trump. Banning Donald J. Trump from the internet and social media during his presidency, mind you, was not about Donald Trump. It was about you. He just happens to stand in the way. And it's so true. He does stand in the way because they're willing to do it to anyone. They banned him from social media. They unleashed anarcho-tyranny with BLM and Antifa riots and kept you in your house with lockdowns. Our governor, J.B. Pritzker, was probably the leader. In fact, I'm pretty certain that no other governor in the United States of America kept the charade going as long as Governor J.B. Pritzker did. 44 consecutive months, almost 4 years of emergency orders and lockdowns and restrictions and closing of business. Now, granted, it's amazing somewhere over the rainbow in the land of make-believe, as I call the land of Lincoln now under J.B. Pritzker, we suddenly have recovered financially. It's the best thing ever. Chicago's the most amazing city, which I believe Chicago is a great city. Unfortunately, the leadership over the past 40, 50 years has really driven it to a point that most people won't even spend time in the Chicagoland area, and they're moving out. But we are in the land of make-believe. JB believes that we are recovering like there's like no other. Where credit ratings are going up. We've had 9 credit upgrades. Now, granted, 22 credit downgrades prior to Pritzker and during Pritzker's tenure. 22 downgrades minus 9. Get my calculator out. I still think that we have an F for a grade, JB. But you continue to tell people through your deception, because that's what it is. Now, just people who are deceived don't even know they're being deceived. But sometimes people who are deceiving others know they're deceiving others, and they continue to do it anyway. I don't believe that Adam Kinzinger believes what was happening according to his testimony and his sitting on the J6 committee was the reality at hand. However, this man has a deep resentment and and I believe bordering on hatred for President Donald J. Trump, and then subsequently you, the American people. And it saddens me to know that that man, Representative Adam Kinzinger, I should say former Congressman Adam Kinzinger, actually came from McLean County, lived here, went to school here, sat on the county board. He knew what he was doing, and he did it anyway. It is time, as I said, for repentance. It is time to free the many people. You know, last week, Kat did she moderated an event up in Moniqua, not Moniqua. What was the city? Shanahan. Thank you, Kevin. Producer Kevin across the way, who's hopefully going to join us here towards the end of the show to let you know a little bit about what he's doing. But Kat did this moderating for Pastor Steve Lee, who is a pastor who was indicted with Trump in Fulton County for having the audacity to exercise his First Amendment right. He went to the door of Ruby Freeman, knocked on her door because he wanted some answers. He had some questions for her. You know, if you don't know who Ruby Freeman is, just Google her name. She's the infamous person that was pulling suitcases after, of course, there was a water leak. They shoot everybody out of the voting center there in Atlanta, and then she subsequently started to run ballots through, which gets back to my point that Joe Biden did get 81 million votes. It's just whether he got 81 million voters to vote for him, because he definitely got 81 million ballots counted for him, which is part of how they have weaponized the electoral process. And yes, that's true. They've weaponized it because they've allowed us now to vote for as long as it rained in the days of Noah. They allow 14 additional days beyond election day, which is now called election season, because they let you vote for 40 days prior to election day here in Illinois. And in some states like Virginia, it's 45 days. But in Illinois, 40 days of early voting. So there's really no reason for you not to go out and vote. You should definitely take advantage of it and go out and vote early. I want you to vote early. I want you to vote by mail. I want you to vote by mail by getting your ballot and then delivering it to the county clerk's office. Hand deliver it. They will instruct you if you can't do that. But you can submit it at one of the precincts, wherever you vote at, during early voting. Now, granted, it's not your precinct. It's one of the voting centers, I should say. I said precinct. During early voting, they have set aside voting centers where all precincts can go and vote. But you can hand deliver your ballot there for tabulation. You can actually physically vote early. Don't let them build up a lead in the first 2 weeks, which is the way they've operationalized it. And they continue to do that. I know there's so much about this insurrection deception, and I'm just scratching the scratch of the scratch of the scratch, because it's going to continue to, I mean, when you think about it, the magnitude of over 40,000 hours. But as I was saying, it is time to free those people that they've incarcerated. You don't see anyone that was in the Capitol last week on behalf of the liberate, or I should say, free the people of Palestine, or to cease fire, to conduct a ceasefire, or to have a ceasefire against the people of Palestine, which is really Hamas, and that's not according to me, that's 51% of the people of Palestine, of Gaza, believe that Hamas is the way of their future. It's a terrorist organization. But you don't see any of those people that surged or stormed the Capitol incarcerated, like Sergeant Harrelson, who has now been in prison for how long? A federal prison for walking through the Capitol. And we see it, right? The new video that's been released. Thank you, Mike Johnson, Speaker Mike Johnson, for doing what Nancy Pelosi did not do, for doing what Kevin McCarthy was unwilling to do. You've done it. And thank you for that. But you see these people meandering through the Capitol, right, wrong, or indifferent. Yours personally, when I went out there, we didn't even get close to the Capitol building. In fact, when most of the proverbial stuff hit the fan, I was in a Cracker Barrel with 49 others having a meal before we returned home. But for those people that were led into the Capitol, which many of them were led, now that we find out, led into the Capitol. So don't believe all the snapshots and sound bites that the federal government put out via who? Their lapdogs, the media, the mainstream media, propped up this entire thing. Hey, we're going to be back right after this here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Okay, back at you. Thank you once again on the Facebook side of things. Rumble, we're not there today, but we will be next week. YouTube and Twitter, Facebook Live. I see you in the chat room. Thank you once again for joining, for commenting. Appreciate all of you. Couldn't do it without you. Yes, I am getting a handle on working the buttons and walking around the big Christmas tree is what I called it. It's not as scary as you would think. And it's kind of cool. I will tell you this, and many of you know about this, right? When you have a kid, and I'm a kid at heart still, that when you explore and do new things, it's kind of exciting. My wife last week asked me how I felt about the show, and I said, it's a different perspective, really. I found myself feeling revived, you know, because sometimes just you get comfortable sitting over there. Kevin was over here. He's doing all the work of pulling up my clips and things like that I've sent off to him, which I'm not utilizing a lot of that right now because I'm wanting to learn to do that by myself. I think there's independence. That's what we thrive on as conservative, Christian conservative Republicans is finding our own way, being independent, individualism, standing above the crowd. All right, we're coming back live. I love that. Stumbling in the wind. You know what? That's what we're doing here today. Stumbling in the wind a little bit. Thankful to be here as always. Appreciate you as my audience and your willingness to tune in, to set aside time and make me a part of your Sunday activities. You can do that obviously by catching us on social media platforms, Rumble, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. like, subscribe, definitely share this content out. Also, the radio side of things, we travel with radio real easy. In fact, you can even have us on radio on your phone and listen to us. That's what I do. I actually tune in to the morning buzz via my earbud in the morning after my daily devotion. I like to start my days off with scripture and prayer, thanking God Almighty for life, for liberty, for freedom, for the ability to be able to come and do what I do here. It's amazing, and I've got so much to learn. I didn't realize how much I have to learn about the process of bringing content like this to you on a weekly basis. I will tell you, it's refreshing, as I've always said. Um, Building a bench is the most important thing to me. The legacy that we're going to leave to our children and grandchildren. And I know many of you really embrace that, right? We look around the world, we see what's happening, and we know that our children and grandchildren possibly could be here for another 20, 30, 40, 50 years, maybe even longer. That's why I hold out hope for the second coming of our Lord. And I know that's going to be a big surprise to the Nation of Islam, as it is to the Jewish land, right? Because neither one of those religious faith traditions believes that Christ has even come once, which blows me away. I mean, it's mind boggling that if you spend any time reading scripture, going through prophecy, and seeing how much has been fulfilled over the 6,000 years of time as it's recorded, uh, that's how we started recording biblical time, right? That's we all have that. 1,000 years is like a day. If you've tuned into Pastor Timothy James Farrell on the Victorious Life, you've heard that the last few weeks. But not knowing what tomorrow brings, I want to be prepared, as I know many of you want to be prepared today. And if you're living in a state of deception or sin, then it's hard to be in communion with Christ. To be in the body, you've got to be in communion. And that's something that I think we should all strive for. I know it's a lot of the stuff that we talk about here is easier said than done. But that's everything. Everything's easier said than done. But you start one step at a time, right? One moment at a time. And you reach beyond yourself. Hey, this show just seems to fly by, and it even flies by even more when I'm on this side of the desk running the board. Um, we've got another segment, another half hour, and I want to really dig a little deeper into this insurrection deception. You know what? The light has shone into the darkness. It is time for the truth. The truth will set you free. You know what? It's the only way, because it's not me saying that. Christ said that. I am the way. I am truth. I am life. Hey, we're going to be back here shortly after a word from our sponsors. I hope you go out and support them because they support us. But we will be back here to wrap the show up, or at least to do the last half hour right after this. Illinois is broken, broken, broken. I just heard myself saying Illinois is broken. We get it. It is. That's the state that we exist in, the brokenness. Thank you for all of you that have joined us here live on Facebook. Sorry once again about the little, major faux pas, but appreciate Kevin bailing me out there. I could have gone 2 hours without being live on uh, the stream. Uh, you can plan that Kevin will have 2 full hours of live stream. I'm pretty certain he's got the board down by now, but he's teaching yours truly, which is a little more difficult to do because you know, you get set in your ways. You get to be older, and I'm set in my ways in a lot of things, except for this. I want to learn. I want to be better. I want to bring you um, a better show every week. I find it fascinating. Sometimes I had to take that off because my hearing's not the best, and when I'm listening to the radio at the same time, I'm trying to talk to you. But many of you uh, realize that when you get yourself out of an area that you've been very comfortable in, it's not the easiest thing to do. And so I'm embracing it. I'm celebrating it. I'm loving it. A lot of things happening. The other day we did this, yesterday, actually, not the other day, but yesterday we had hot chocolate and coffee at the Republican headquarters where we were getting petitions signed on behalf of people who are willing to run for public office. I know I've been quoted as saying nobody in their right mind would run for office, right? Well, it is what it is. There are people running, and they were there yesterday. I'm trying to watch the clock. See, I'm not a nervous wreck. I'm finding myself very comfortable here doing this. I just want to make sure that I'm keeping everything flowing, keeping the live stream running. That's the first thing. I learned a valuable lesson today. I thought I hit the button twice. I only hit it once. And then it opens up and gives you another button to hit. I thought, oh, I'm done. I hit go live. And it didn't go live. Kevin goes, you're not even live. I'm like, well, that hour was just for radio then. It'll never be seen on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, or Twitter. All right. I'm going to take a moment here to gather myself. So you're just going to see me on screen, and I'm going to stop rambling. Maybe you guys can talk to me a little bit in the chat. There are going to be many storms ahead. In fact, I wish I could come here to Cities 92.9, the News and Talk of Bloomington Normal on the DPB show and tell you there aren't greater storms ahead. There are many storms ahead that we face. In fact, I like that line in that bump that says, when our friends and family betray us, let us down. And we're seeing that happen throughout our country, right? We're finding it so easy to deceive others, to let others to send others to the gallows, right? These are our friends and our family. You know, it is the Thanksgiving season. And I've heard so many um, unfortunate telling of what transpired over the holidays, especially of late, because of where we find ourselves culturally speaking, which is evidence when people get to the point where they can't even sit and share a meal with their family members who are flesh and blood, or maybe not even flesh and blood, but they're still family members. They're people, humans. And part of that is because of the unwillingness to let go. You know, if you've been told something long enough, and I get it, people who are deceived don't even know they're being deceived. Think of how many people retold the story of January 6th and the Insurrection Deception. Think of the people today, right here, right now, at this moment, that are being held. They are incarcerated in federal penitentiaries, and their crime, walking through the United States Capitol. That's their crime. And we know, based on current events, just recent current events, that people were storming the Capitol, rioting, going up against law enforcement for the sake of being able to tell the world that they are pro-Palestine. Unfortunately, at this point, if you're pro-Palestine, you're pro-Hamas. And I'm sorry, you're on the wrong side of that one. I don't know how to tell you that if you're supporting the craziness that took place October 7th, the madness, the savagery, you're on the wrong side of this. You're still entitled to voice openly in a public forum your dissenting opinion. But what you're not able to do is to threaten people's lives, to chant death to anyone, because that is beyond the First Amendment free speech. Free speech protects you to be able to say that you don't agree with Israel or anything about Israel. But when you start making claims or making proclamations, I should say, to death to the Jewish people, or to basically eliminate all Jewish people from the face of the earth, then you've overstepped the First Amendment, because you're no longer constitutionally protected when you threaten people's lives. That's something that the First Amendment will never protect you from, is threatening someone else's life or livelihood. We are a nation of law and order. You know what? I agree. We've got a commenter jumping in on our Facebook, you know, and she says, we need the J6 prisoners out now. Yes, unequivocally, before Thanksgiving. These people have a right to be reunited with their families. Enough is enough. That's what I started saying earlier in the show. I didn't realize that I would be the person that kind of was the lead for the Stop the Steal here at Cities 92.9, but I was. For such a time as this, God called me out. I like David. Oh, that's me, David. But I mean, I'm talking about David, you know, David and Goliath. I didn't realize that I was going to be called out to take on the giant. And what was the giant at the time? The giant was the fact that this whole operation to upset America was put into action. And that's what I was called to do. I didn't realize it, but, you know, I too, just like many of you who might have been party to being on the bus or even going out there independently. I know many of you that did, but you had the FBI call or trying to get in contact with you You had people out in the mainstream, in the establishment, making statements about your character, who you are as a person. A little segue. Uh, I had someone that I ran into the store at the store the other day, and they made this mention, and this is just prior to the whole release of the of all the tapes, the J6 tapes. But he said, "Hey, you got yourself in a little trouble, didn't you, going out there in J6?" I said, "Well, I guess I did, depending if you talk to certain people." I said, "But if you talk to other people, they actually are applauding, supportive of what we did here at Cities 92. Yours truly, obviously. There are plenty of dissenters. I I welcome and I hold it as a badge of honor when we talk about what took place that day. Because look at where we're at today. It's been a long road. And as I shared with you on January 10th of 2021, I know I said this earlier in the store and or earlier in the show, and I'm repeating myself. I know what we faced going into that. And I've told you many times that eventually the light would shine into the darkness. Many of us know what took place that day was purely political theater. And we see it demonstrated here, right before our very eyes. So yes, the political prisoners, or I should say, the Americans who are being held in prisons for what took place January 6th, every single one of them needs to be released and pardoned. Now, I know it's going to be hard for the current president, or resident, as I like to call him, because I think that's just part of the fabrication and the lies and the deception. The entire thing that we're living under is deceptive. And that is what these folks are fearful of, because they know that a President Trump is going to continue to undo what they have been trying to do for decades. And they're fearful because they're being exposed. I'd love to have Adam Kinzinger dial in. In fact, I'm going to try to get a number for him. I want to give him an opportunity. I just don't want to be sitting back here teeing off on somebody. And that goes for every one of you. If you're out there in the listening area or you're on social media and you disagree with what I'm saying today about the insurrection deception, by all means, I welcome you in studio. I want to talk to you. I have questions for you. What I find out is that most people aren't as informed as they think they are, because knowledge is power. And when you know that something obviously just doesn't pass the smell test or the open your eyes and see with clear vision test, then you start to question. And that's what I think we do here at Cities 92.9. Not only myself, but Kat, Ty, Kevin, is we question things. We question where things are at. We're constantly pressing the envelope because I believe unequivocally that you deserve to have answers. Another commenter says on our Facebook chat, I agree. Let them go. Let them go home. It's Thanksgiving. Enough is enough. You know what a Thanksgiving would look like for some of these people? To be able to sit around and break bread with their family members who they've been held apart from for many years. No different than the elderly who were quarantined and held away from their family members during the COVID crisis. Commenter says intelligence agencies staged it and the Pelosi facilitated it. Without question, we know this. Eventually, all of these things are going to come full circle, as we knew they would. And believe me, I don't find any satisfaction to say I told you so, because I'm not going to say that. You're not going to hear that from me, because first of all, it lacks humility. I'm sorry that people were deceived. Many of the people doing the deceiving weren't deceived. They're evil. They openly, notoriously knew what they were doing, and they went ahead and did it anyway. I believe those people are people like Adam Kinzinger, Liz Cheney, anyone on that J6 committee. They destroyed evidence. You and I couldn't destroy evidence and not be held accountable for it. Um, in fact, we couldn't do anything even comparable to what they did in the unselect, as President Trump liked to refer to them, the unselect committee, because it's no different than the juries, or I should say not the juries. We haven't seen a jury yet, but the judges, the state's attorneys, or I should say the attorney general's offices that have brought trumped up charges against President Trump. You know, all of this deception, the voting process, J6, the COVID rollout of a virus, all intentional. And don't believe me, I think one of the better books to read is The Great Reset by Klaus Schwab from the World, Economic Forum. His own book calls it what he sees it as being, the Great Reset. Dealing with what we're facing. Well, we're hot and heavy. That came in. I'm working the board the best I can. Thank you for all tuning in. Um, we've got a lot happening here. I'm sorry about the little faux pas, but we're going to wrap up the show when we come back. Still a lot to cover. I'd like to hear more from you. I appreciate all of you that have let your voice be heard on the Facebook side of things. Sorry for any of you that tried to call the studio line. I'm still learning. The training wheels are off, and I'm crashing and burning, but I'm going to do it all the way to success. And we're going to do that when we come back after a word from our sponsors here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal, and the David Paul Blumenshine Show. Once again, I appreciate you. Look forward to seeing you on the other side. Oh, that's because I don't have my red button on. Thank you. Okay, now can you hear me, Ryan? See, I just gave a whole diatribe on how I screwed up earlier, Ryan, and then you put up in the comment, "Thank you." See, I need you guys. I need you all in studio with me. Let's let's see if the oh, hold on, I can do this. Andrew, I can do this. I just have to do that, and you come up on the best. Let's see if that WAPO reporter will let you interview her now. Yeah. Annie, get your gun. That was old Annie. I wonder if she still has a job with the Washington Post. I don't know if she does or not. I got to turn it on so I can hear when we're coming back on. I don't hear anything. Am I coming back? Okay. What if I stumble? What if I fall? Boy, that's fitting for today's show. You know, I- for those of you on the radio side, you won't particularly get as much of a kick out of this today as I'm getting right now. So on the Facebook side of things, I go into this diatribe of how I kind of stumbled and fell myself in the show today on the social media platform. I forgot to hit the go live button. And then I'm going in this diatribe telling the audience about this, or at least those people that have joined us on the social media side of things. You can always join us at Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, uh, and Twitter. Like, smash the like button, subscribe, share it with other people. But I'm going into this diatribe and I'm explaining exactly how I stumbled and fell. And then one of our faithful listeners and former talk show or on-air talent himself, Ryan McKenzie, says, "No sound." I'm like, there you go. That says it all. I thought I was doing so well, uh, after last week, and it's possible. You know me. Many of you know me that I have sometimes I can build up a little false confidence. Saying, "Okay, I think I've got this. I've got this." But that's what I love about learning is humility and getting knocked off the bicycle a little bit or falling off the cycle. Um, hey, the training wheels, I thought we could take them off, but I think we're putting them back on. I do appreciate you joining us today here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal, and on the side of social media for all of you that are listening and watching us there. Thank you, thank you. I can't do it without you. Um, I have to bring this up because my friend and a very avid supporter of all things here with the DPB show asked the question. My friend Andrew. Let's see if the WAPO, and that's Washington Post, reporter will let you interview her now. Let me give you some context to this. And I know we're up against the end of the show here shortly, but yes, Annie from the Washington Post, who I don't even know if she still has a job, decided to come out and write an article in a national newspaper about this station, Cities 92, as an activist station. Because lo and behold, they are offended by the fact that anyone on the other side of the aisle or the other side of the argument would have the audacity to stand up and voice their opinions, because they believe that if you have an opinion, we're going to give it to you. It's no different than deception. They don't even realize when they're being deceived. And they do it in such a way that almost seems like it's not really deception. That's the fascinating part about it, is that the insurrection deception, this is a glorious day. This is a day that I think we're going to finally start to see the proverbial pendulum swing back. Adam Kinzinger, Nancy Pelosi, Liz Cheney, Adam Schiff, Chuck Schumer, you have a lot of explaining to do. And speaking of explaining, I don't want to jump off air without giving Kevin an opportunity to explain a little bit about what's going to happen. He's been a good sport. He came in today and he sat on the other side of the desk, and he's been over there working because I know that he's a full-time college student getting ready for law school and still doing the show and filling in yesterday, or I should say coming and being part of the last chance for petition signing. So, Kevin, do I have the right mic on? Mic 3? Mic 2? I got you on mic. Let me turn you on. There you go.
Okay. Is it on air too?
Yes, you're
Awesome.
on air now.
Well, today on Speechless, coming up in the next 2 hours, I got a lot of different things I'm covering. Starting off with what is a man? Today is International Men's Day, and I feel like, and it's not as much about the gender theory. I'm going on the obvious that a man is a biological man. I don't need to get into all the gender crap today because I just want people to understand the lack of manliness in society and what actually.
You might not want to go on Facebook right now, Kevin, because it is deer hunting season. I'm seeing a lot. I know that's a little bit of, what do they call that? Toxic masculinity.
Yeah, toxic. I'll be covering a little bit about toxic masculinity.
Show us your game. Hey, we're doing that here.
But what does it actually mean to be a man? I'm going to cover a lot about that. And with that, I'll be covering the Gettysburg Address and how that actually ties into manliness and is more relevant, or is as relevant today. I can't say more, but as relevant today as it was back in the 1800s when it was given, and that was a speech that was given 160 years ago today. That stuff about the January 6th tapes, some other social and political commentary that you guys are going to love. So be ready.
Well, once again, I thank you for coming and listening. Hey, believe it or not, the Bears were winning until they're now not winning. What a concept. Hey, stumbling, fumbling, bumbling, I so appreciate you being here today in this wonderful season that is leading up to Thanksgiving. Go out. I wish you a blessed Thanksgiving to you and yours. And yes, it is time we all contact our Congress people and demand immediately the release of every political prisoner being held. Thank you.